The rain hammers against my windshield like tiny fists demanding entry. 4 weeks before Christmas, and Portland has dressed herself in a cloak of water and darkness. I grip the steering wheel tighter, squinting to make out the road markings through the downpour. Just 12 minutes from home. 12 minutes from a hot shower, my worn flannel pajamas, and the leftover lasagna waiting in my fridge. I ease to a stop at the red light, drumming my fingers against the wheel in rhythm with Fleetwood Mac on the radio. Something my mother used to play on Sunday mornings. The smell of coffee and cinnamon rolls filling our house before things changed. The light turns green. I press the gas. The world slows down. A flash of headlights from my left, impossibly bright and impossibly close. The speeding SUV barrels through its red light, aimed directly at my driver's side door. My mouth opens to scream, but the sound gets swallowed by the unholy shriek of metal folding in on itself. My car spins violently, and I'm a rag doll inside it. The smell of burning rubber fills my nostrils, followed by something metallic and warm. Blood. My blood. The world goes black. I wake to the rhythmic beeping of machines, and the antiseptic smell that can only mean hospital. A nurse notices my open eyes and calls for the doctor. Everything feels distant, like I'm watching a movie about someone else's life. Someone is speaking about a compound femur fracture, surgical pins, physical therapy, 6 to 7 months of therapy to avoid permanent damage, the doctor says, his face grave above his neatly trimmed beard. He holds up my x-rays, pointing to the place where my leg is now more metal than bone. There will be a scar, Miss Wilson, a significant one. I close my eyes, trying to process what this means. Just 2 days ago, my life made sense. Ryan and I had spent 5 years building our relationship. Our summer wedding plans were already taking shape. A small ceremony by the Columbia River. Nothing extravagant but meaningful. Why wait any longer? He'd asked on our anniversary, sliding a modest diamond ring onto my finger. My career as a marketing designer had been flourishing. The promotion to senior creative lead had come with a corner desk near the window, and a salary that finally let me breathe easier at the end of each month. I'd celebrated by buying real plants instead of the plastic ones that had decorated my workspace for years. I loved my small apartment, with its creaky floors and the reading nook overlooking downtown Portland. On clear days, I could see Mount Hood in the distance, a snow-capped reminder that beauty existed beyond concrete and glass. I'd spend Sunday mornings there with coffee, and whatever novel had captured my imagination that week, a life I'd built carefully, piece by piece, now shattered like the windows of my car. My mother, stepfather, and sister Sloane arrive on the third day. Their visit lasts exactly 20 minutes. I watch the minutes tick by on the wall clock above their heads. They stand awkwardly around my bed, asking casual questions about the weather, the hospital food, whether the nurses are treating me well. Mother keeps her coat on the entire time. "We brought you something," Sloane says, placing a small fruit basket on the chair beside my bed. The cellophane wrapper crinkles as she sets it down. 3 apples, 2 oranges, and a bunch of grapes I know will go sour before I can eat them. My stepfather checks his watch twice. When they leave, the silence in the room feels heavier than before. I reach for my phone when it buzzes with a text, my hand trembling slightly from the effort. The message is from Ryan. "I can't handle a future like this." 7 words. 5 years reduced to 7 words. I call my mother the next morning, my voice still rough from the breathing tube they'd inserted during surgery. "I need help," I tell her, the words burning my throat. "Just temporarily. The medical bills and rent. Everyone's struggling right now, Emberly," she says, her voice sharp with impatience. "Your stepfather's business is barely staying afloat, and we're helping Sloane with her wedding deposits. I could lose my apartment," I whisper. "We just can't right now." A pause, and Sloane's feeling under the weather. She doesn't want to catch any hospital germs, so we won't be visiting again soon. The line goes quiet after we hang up. I stare at the ceiling, connecting the dots in the acoustic tiles above my bed. The truth crystallizes with stark clarity. My family's support has always been conditional, present only when convenient, absent when needed most. Outside my window, Portland continues to rain. I watch a drop of water trace its way down the glass, joining others in its descent, and wonder how I never saw the cracks in my foundation until everything collapsed around me. The bank statement on my phone screen blurs through my tears. 3 weeks of medical bills have emptied the savings account I'd nurtured for 5 years. The numbers mock me, $17.42 remaining where once 5 figures had provided security. I swipe away from the screen as if that might change the reality. My apartment door wears a neon orange eviction notice like a garish corsage. Final warning screams from the top in bold letters. I lean against the doorframe, my crutches digging into my armpits, the weight of my cast pulling on muscles that haven't recovered from the trauma. 30 days to pay or vacate. But the 30 days had passed while I lay medicated in a hospital bed. You need help packing? My neighbor asks from across the hall, her expression a mixture of pity and discomfort. I'm fine. I lie, the words automatic. Inside, cardboard boxes from the recycling bin form a small mountain in my living room. I slide to the floor, wincing as my cast hits the ground harder than intended. How do you pack a life with a broken body? I stretch awkwardly toward the bookshelf, fingertips grazing the spine of a novel Ryan gave me on our 3rd anniversary. The effort sends shooting pain up my thigh, a scream building in my throat that I swallow back. For 4 hours, I fill one box. Just one. The physical agony of moving with a hip-to-ankle cast fades beneath the crushing realization that no one is coming to help me. Not family, not Ryan, not friends who prove to be merely pleasant weather companions. You have until 5 p.m. tomorrow, the building manager says when he stops by. He doesn't meet my eyes. I can't make exceptions. The rental car feels both salvation and shame later that evening. I park behind my old gym, where the membership I can no longer afford once granted me access to hot showers and fitness classes. Now, I'll use their exterior electrical outlet to charge my phone while I sleep in their shadow. I recline the passenger seat as far as it will go, wedging my awkward cast between the dashboard and seat. The emergency blanket from the trunk crinkles with every movement, its silver surface reflecting the dimming winter light. My body refuses to find comfort, the cast a constant reminder of how thoroughly my life has fractured. Morning brings the first humiliation, using the gas station restroom to brush my teeth while avoiding the cashier's curious gaze. I splash water on my face, pat it dry with rough paper towels, and tell myself this is temporary. In the mirror, a woman I barely recognize stares back hollowed cheeks, unwashed hair twisted into a messy bun, eyes that have forgotten how to hope. Bathrooms for customers only. The cashier calls when I emerge. I buy the cheapest coffee they offer, the taste of charity bitter on my tongue. 4 nights, each colder than the last. December in Portland shows no mercy to the homeless. The recently homeless, the never thought I'd be homeless. The distinction matters little when rain hammers against the car windows, a percussive accompaniment to my silent tears. The heater runs until the gas gauge warns me to stop. On the 5th morning, I wake to windows fogged with my breath, the cold having crept into my bones during the night. I check my phone battery at 12%. The doctor's warning echoes in my mind. Without proper care, you could have a permanent limp. My physical therapy appointment was scheduled for yesterday. The notification mocks me from my calendar, the $175 session fee, now as unreachable as the moon. I attempt the exercises the hospital therapist demonstrated, my legs screaming in protest with each movement. The pain shoots from ankle to hip, white-hot and merciless. Straighten and hold for 30 seconds, I whisper, reciting the therapist's instructions. I manage 8 seconds before collapsing back against the seat, breath coming in short gasps. Each day without proper care is a mortgage against my future. The thought of limping through life at 30 terrifies me more than the homelessness, more than the hunger that has become my constant companion. My phone shows 17 outgoing calls to my mother, to Sloan, to my stepfather, none returned. I've left voicemails that evolved from composed requests to desperate pleas, the progression of my dignity's erosion preserved in digital form. Please, I whispered in the last one, 3 days ago. I'm sleeping in my car. I just need a couch, just until I can figure something out. The silence in response says everything my family won't. I park near a public restroom in a city park, timing my arrival between the morning joggers and the lunch crowd. The rain has returned, a steady drizzle that soaks through my coat as I maneuver from car to building. My crutches slip on the wet pavement. Once. Twice. The 3rd time, my right crutch slides completely out from under me. I fall hard, the impact sending shockwaves through my broken leg. The world whites out in pain. The cold pavement presses against my cheek, rain pooling around my face, soaking through my clothes. I try to rise, but my body has finally surrendered. Through dimming consciousness, I register someone kneeling beside me. Not family, not a friend. A park janitor in a green uniform, his weathered face creased with concern. "Don't move, honey," he says, phone already at his ear. "Help's coming. I'm staying right here." As the ambulance sirens wail in the distance, I wonder if accepting help from this stranger means finally admitting my family has truly abandoned me. Should I keep trying to reconnect with those who share my blood, or accept that sometimes the family we need isn't the one we're born into? The janitor holds my hand until the paramedics arrive. A simple human connection that feels more honest than any I've known in years. A soft knock at the hospital door pulls me from fitful sleep. I blink against the harsh fluorescent lighting, expecting another nurse with pain medication or perhaps the doctor with more bad news. Instead, I find myself looking at Mr. Callahan, my former creative writing professor from Portland Community College. His silver hair is neatly combed, and he's wearing the same type of corduroy jacket he always wore to class. For a moment, I wonder if the pain medication is causing hallucinations. "Emberly," he says, his voice warm with concern. "The janitor who found you in the parking lot is my nephew, Marcus. He recognized you from when you'd visit my office hours." Mr. Callahan steps closer, his hands fidgeting with the leather strap of his messenger bag. "He told me what happened." I turn my face away, shame burning through me more powerfully than the pain radiating from my leg. "I'm fine," I whisper, the lie bitter on my tongue. "You were sleeping in your car with a compound fracture." His voice holds no judgment, just quiet certainty. "That's not fine by any definition. I don't need... My wife and I have a loft above our garage." He interrupts gently. "It's small, but it has a bathroom and kitchenette. The doctor says you'll be discharged tomorrow. It's yours until you're back on your feet." Pride makes me open my mouth to refuse, but reality closes it again. The eviction notice, the empty savings account, the unanswered calls to family. Mr. Callahan must see the battle on my face because he sets his bag down and pulls a chair closer to my bed. "Everyone needs help sometimes, Emberly. This isn't charity, it's humanity." When I nod, the relief that washes over his face makes me wonder who is helping whom. The doctor called physical therapy rehabilitation. A more honest term would be torture. Twice weekly, I grit my teeth through exercises that send fire shooting through my leg. My physical therapist, Diane, is relentlessly cheerful as she pushes my limits. "One more rep," she says, for what feels like the 10th one more. "I can't." I gasp, sweat dampening my t-shirt. "You can and you will," she replies, her smile never faltering. The alternative is a lifetime of pain and limited mobility. At night, the accident replays in Technicolor behind my closed eyelids, the flash of headlights, the shriek of metal, the warm trickle of blood down my face. I wake gasping for air, my heart hammering against my ribs like it's trying to escape. The stairs to the loft become my personal Everest. The first time I attempt them alone, I tumble backward on the third step, landing hard on my tailbone. The second time, my crutch slips on the edge, and I barely catch myself on the railing. The third time, I crawl up on my hands and one good knee, dragging the useless leg behind me like dead weight. Mrs. Callahan brings dinner up each evening, setting the tray on the small table by the window. "Just until you can manage the stairs," she insists when I try to protest. "Thank you," I say instead, forcing the words past the lump in my throat. Each night after they've gone to bed, I allow myself exactly 10 minutes of tears, 10 minutes to feel sorry for myself, to wonder if I'll ever be whole again. Then I wipe my face, take a deep breath, and promise myself that tomorrow will be better than today. One afternoon, a folded piece of construction paper appears on my pillow. Opening it reveals a crayon drawing of a woman with a purple cast and flowing cape. "Emberly, stronger than steel," is written in careful block letters across the top. Mr. Callahan's 14-year-old son, Aiden, must have left it while I was in the shower. I prop it against the lamp on my nightstand, where it's the first thing I see each morning. 3 weeks into my stay, sleep evades me despite the exhaustion weighing on my bones. I scroll through social media, a habit I've mostly abandoned since the accident. Ryan hasn't contacted me once since that devastating text message. My thumb freezes mid-scroll. There he is, tanned and smiling on a beach in Maui. His arm is around a petite blonde wearing a red bikini. The date on the post is exactly 16 days after my accident. 2 weeks after he told me he couldn't handle a future like this. My finger trembles as I tap the message icon for Tara, the only friend who still checks in regularly. Did you know about this? I type, attaching a screenshot. The response comes almost immediately. Honey, he was already seeing her before your accident. I thought you knew. The phone slips from my fingers, bouncing on the bed before sliding to the floor. The betrayal should hurt more than it does. I wait for tears that don't come. Instead, a strange clarity washes over me, like finally putting on glasses after years of squinting. Ryan's abandonment, my family's absence. The pattern crystallizes with perfect, terrible clarity. My worth to them had always been tied to their convenience. When I became inconvenient, broken, needy, they simply walked away. The next morning, I open my laptop and find a free web design course online. My design background gives me a head start, and I lose myself in HTML and CSS for hours. When my leg throbs too badly to concentrate, I switch to watching tutorials on creating responsive layouts. 2 weeks later, I complete my first paid project, a simple logo for a local bakery. When the PayPal notification shows $70 transferred to my account, I stare at the screen in disbelief. I created something of value from this broken body, from this borrowed room. I mentioned to some colleagues that you're doing web design, Mr. Callahan says over breakfast one morning. He slides a list of names and email addresses across the table. They're all small business owners who could use some help with their online presence. That afternoon, I send out emails to everyone on the list. By evening, 3 have responded with interest. When I realize I've earned enough for my next physical therapy session without dipping into my dwindling emergency fund, I allow myself a real smile for the first time in months. The corner of the loft transforms into a makeshift office. My laptop sits on a small desk. Mr. Callahan helped me carry up the stairs. I pin color swatches and design inspirations to a corkboard on the wall. I set my rates $150 for a small website and create templates to streamline my workflow. As sunset bathes the loft in golden light, I check my email one last time before calling it a day. A new message waits in my inbox. Seeking contract web designer for quarterly projects. I open the email and begin to read, the glow from my screen mingling with the last rays of daylight streaming through the window. For the first time since the accident, tomorrow looks like more than just something to endure, it looks like something to anticipate. The morning routine becomes my anchor. Before the sun even considers brightening Portland's winter sky, I'm already awake, my legs stretched across the bed as I work through the therapy exercises that have become as natural as breathing. Bend, extend, rotate. Pain still shoots through my thigh with each movement, but it's duller now, more like an echo than a scream. By 6, I'm at my makeshift desk in the corner of Mr. Potterat, Callahan's garage loft, coffee steaming beside my laptop. The first hour belongs to learning new design software, coding techniques, marketing strategies. Knowledge costs nothing but time, and time is the one resource I now have in abundance. You're building something remarkable here, Mr. Callahan tells me one evening, nodding toward my growing portfolio displayed on my computer screen. Most people would still be wallowing. I don't tell him about the nights I still cry into my pillow. Instead, I show him the website I've launched, showcasing my work, each project meticulously categorized, every design decision documented. Quality over quantity, deliberate over desperate. When the email arrives from Westbrook Industries, a referral from one of Mr. Callahan's colleagues, I read it 3 times before believing it. Their marketing director needs design work for an upcoming product launch. My first corporate client. The deposit they send covers 2 months of physical therapy. I celebrate by buying a real desk chair instead of the folding metal one that leaves my back aching each night. The cream envelope arrives on a Tuesday, 6 months after the accident. Heavy cardstock with Sloan and Derek embossed in silver script across the front. Inside, the wedding invitation is a masterpiece of tasteful excess ivory paper, gold foil, and the words, "Family is everything," curling along the bottom in elegant calligraphy. My mother's voicemail follows the next day. "Emberly, it's Mom. Your sister is getting married in August. Surely you can set aside your dramatics for one day." A pause, then her voice softens with practiced concern. "Everyone's asking about you. It doesn't look right, you not being there." The words "it doesn't look right" echo in my head as I draft my response. Not "we miss you" or "we want you there." Just concern about appearances. I write the decline letter on my best stationery, each word measured and precise. Thank you for the invitation. I'm unable to attend. I wish Sloane and Derek every happiness. No explanation, no apology, just facts, politely stated. Sealing the envelope feels like closing a chapter. The tremor in my hands, once a constant companion, is noticeably absent as I press the stamp into place. 2 days later, my phone buzzes with a text from Casey, my college roommate who still keeps in touch with Sloane. Thought you should see this. Her message reads, followed by screenshots from my family's group chat. Mother, Emberly declined. So selfish. Sloane, typical. Everything's always about her. Stepfather, we're better off without the drama. I stare at their words, waiting for the familiar ache in my chest. It doesn't come. Instead, I feel an unexpected lightness, as if the final weight has been lifted. When I sealed that response letter, I wondered if I was closing a door that should remain cracked open. Is maintaining family connections worth sacrificing your self-respect, or does true healing sometimes require a clean break? 3 days later, the Halston media office occupies the 12th floor of a glass tower in downtown Portland. I arrived 20 minutes early for the interview, giving myself time to navigate the lobby. My movements are more fluid now, though the slight hitch in my stride remains a subtle reminder of metal pins and hard-won recovery. The receptionist smiles as I approach. Miss Wilson? They're ready for you. The interviewer, a woman with silver-streaked hair and bright eyes, doesn't glance at my leg once. Instead, she studies my portfolio with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions about my design process and creative philosophy. Your work shows remarkable attention to detail, she says, lingering over a branding package I created for a local coffee shop. And these user experience flows, they demonstrate real empathy for the customer journey. When she extends the offer design manager, $115,000 annually, with benefits and remote work flexibility, I maintain my composure until I reach my car. Then I press my forehead against the steering wheel and let the tears flow freely, not from pain or loss, but from vindication. That evening, I call Mr. Callahan to share the news. They saw my work, I tell him, my voice thick with emotion. Not my limp, not my story, just my work. The world is full of people who recognize value when they see it, he replies. And those who don't? They reveal more about themselves than about you. 2 weeks later, the cottage sits on a 1/4 acre just outside the city limits. It's nothing grand, 2 bedrooms, worn hardwood floors that creak with character, and a wraparound porch that caught my eye the moment I saw the listing. The previous owners left behind climbing roses that frame the front steps, their scent welcoming visitors even before the door opens. The realtor, a man with a booming laugh and perpetually untucked shirts, raises his eyebrows when I make the offer without consulting anyone. Don't you want to bring your husband by? Or your parents? He asks, pen hovering over the paperwork. It's just me, I reply, meeting his gaze steadily, and I know what I want. When the closing date arrives, I sit alone at a table scattered with documents, signing my name over and over. The loan officer explains each form with practiced efficiency, occasionally glancing up as if expecting someone else to walk through the door. The final signature complete, she hands me a set of keys attached to a small wooden house charm. Congratulations, Miss Wilson. The property is yours. The weight of those keys in my palm feels different from anything I've experienced before, not the burden of dependence or the sting of rejection. Instead, they represent a promise kept to myself, a foundation built with my own hands. That evening, I sit on the porch steps of my new home, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. For the first time in over a year, I don't feel the need to look back. The road ahead, winding and uncertain as it may be, is entirely mine to travel. Almost 2 years later, the package arrives on a Wednesday, wrapped in mint green paper with cartoon giraffes dancing across the surface. Inside lies a tiny blue onesie, impossibly small booties, and a handwritten note from Sloane. Your nephew wants to meet his aunt. I run my fingers over the soft cotton, something tugging at my heart despite my best efforts to remain unmoved. I place the package on my coffee table where it sits for 3 days before I tuck it away in a drawer. No response sent. 2 weeks later, another envelope arrives. This one contains no baby clothes, Just a medical bill with my stepfather's name and a post-it note in my mother's handwriting. Robert had a stroke. We're drowning in expenses. The subtle implication hangs unspoken between the typewritten lines now that I've landed on my feet. Surely I owe them. My phone buzzes with increasing frequency. Text messages appear like clockwork, each one heavier with obligation than the last. Family takes care of family. My mother writes on a Tuesday morning. Remember who raised you? Arrives that Friday evening. Your nephew said his first word today. It should have been aunt. Sloan adds the following week. 3 days later, I've just finished watering my front porch ferns when a silver sedan pulls into my driveway. My mother steps out, looking older than I remember, her hair more gray than brown now. She wears her church clothes, cream-colored blouse, sensible tan slacks, gold cross necklace catching the afternoon sunlight. The outfit she reserves for important negotiations. Emberly, she calls, not waiting for an invitation before climbing my porch steps. What a lovely home. I don't invite her inside. Instead, I remain where I stand, watering can still gripped in my right hand. Why are you here? Can't a mother visit her daughter? She attempts a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. We miss you. Robert's been asking for you since his stroke. A calm settles over me, different from the anxiety her presence would have triggered a year ago. I needed you when I was sleeping in my car with a broken leg. Her expression falters. We didn't know. I almost lost my leg while you were too busy to answer my calls. My voice remains steady, a fact that seems to unnerve her more than if I'd shouted. 17 calls, Mother. Not one returned. You've always been so independent, we thought. You thought what was convenient for you to think. I set the watering can down on the porch railing. The truth is, you never showed up for me unless it benefited you somehow. That's not fair, she protests, eyes darting past me to peer through my front windows. We're family. Family wouldn't have let me sleep in a car that December with a compound femur fracture. She sighs dramatically. Are you still dwelling on that? It's been almost 2 years, Emberly. People make mistakes. 2 robins land on my front lawn, pecking at the grass while we stand in silence. I've rehearsed this moment countless times, but now that it's here, I feel nothing but a profound weariness. The following Monday, I sit across from attorney Joanna Faulkner, her office smelling of lemon polish and old books. A formal no-contact letter is certainly within your rights, she explains, sliding papers across her desk. Once served by certified mail, any further attempts at contact could potentially constitute harassment. And they can't contest it? I ask, pen hovering above the signature line. They can contest anything, but the law is on your side. Her eyes are kind behind tortoiseshell glasses. This isn't about disowning them, it's about establishing boundaries they've proven unwilling to respect. I sign my name with a steady hand, authorizing letters to be sent to my mother, stepfather, and Sloan. The weight lifts from my shoulders with each stroke of the pen. 3 days later, my phone rings with my mother's number. Against better judgment, I answer. You can't legally disown your family. Her voice borders on hysterical. We're blood. What will people at church think? I'm not disowning you, I reply, surprised by the calm in my voice. I'm protecting myself. After hanging up, I systematically silence notifications, redirect my mail to a P.O. box, and block their accounts across all social media platforms. The final click of the block button feels like locking a door on a chapter of my life that no longer serves me. That evening, I sit alone on my porch swing, watching fireflies blink in the gathering dusk. The slight creak of the chains above my head keeps rhythm with the cicadas' evening chorus. For the first time in months, I breathe deeply without the tightness in my chest that thoughts of family once triggered. 3 months pass in peaceful silence. Then a sympathy card arrives from a distant cousin my stepfather has died. The note mentions I've been cut from the will. When my friend Marcella calls to tell me, concerned about how I'm taking the news, my response surprises even me. Good. I wouldn't have taken a cent. A week later, a thick envelope arrives, Sloane's familiar handwriting sprawled across the front. Inside is a 5-page letter filled with vitriol, ending with, "You'll die alone." I seal it in a fresh envelope, write "Return to sender" across the front, and add a second smaller envelope marked, "For my aunt, 18 years from now." Both are returned unopened. Standing at my mailbox watching the postal carrier drive away with my returned letters, I realize I've finally stopped waiting for the family I was born into to become the family I needed. In their absence, I've become my own foundation. The scent of barbecue sauce mingles with summer air as I adjust the platter of corn on my back deck. 3 years have transformed this space from barren dirt to an oasis. Tomato plants climb their cages in neat rows beside peppers and herbs, a living testament to patience and care. Need any help with those? Melissa calls from the picnic table where she's arranging paper plates in colorful stacks. Got it covered, I answer, balancing the tray on my hip as I navigate the steps. My leg gives only the slightest twinge, a whisper of what once was. The limp that doctors warned might be permanent has faded to a subtle hitch in my stride, noticeable only to those who know to look for it. I move through my garden with the confidence of someone who has rebuilt herself from foundation to rooftop. Laughter erupts from the far corner where Sam is telling another outrageous story from his restaurant kitchen. The sound fills my yard, warm and genuine, so different from the measured, careful conversations of my childhood home where words were currency spent only when necessary. Your tomatoes are putting mine to shame, my neighbor Eleanor says, inspecting a plump red fruit. What's your secret? Knowing when to cut away what doesn't serve you. I answer with a smile. And good compost. The words carry more truth than she knows. Some things must be pruned for others to flourish. Later, as the sky melts into watercolor hues, I stand in the hospital corridor where my life fractured and reformed. The same antiseptic smell, the same fluorescent lights, but a different woman walks these halls now. My steps are sure, my shoulders squared beneath my blazer. The donation check in my purse feels like completion of a circle. $5,000 toward the Patient Emergency Fund, not enough to change the world, but perhaps enough to change one world, the way Mr. Callahan changed mine. When the administrator steps away to get a receipt, I slip down the recovery wing. Room 412 looks the same as when I spent those awful nights staring at the ceiling. I tap the underside of the bed frame and secure a small envelope with clear tape. Inside, a note. Sometimes the ones you need most walk away, and sometimes you're better off because of it. Words I wish someone had told me when I thought being abandoned meant being unworthy of love. The monthly dinner at the Callahans has become a cornerstone of my calendar. Margaret's dining room glows with candlelight as we pass dishes family style, the conversation flowing as easily as the wine, to building bridges that matter. Mr. Callahan says, raising his glass, and having the courage to burn those that don't. His wife squeezes my hand under the table. Their son, now in college, asks about my next speaking engagement. The warmth around this table has nothing to do with blood relations, and everything to do with chosen presence. These people showed up. They continue to show up. No conditions, no scorekeeping. My book sits on bookstores' shelves nationwide now, its spine bearing my name above the title, After Abandonment. Building a Life That's Yours. The publisher called last week about a second printing. The speaking requests arrive daily: community centers, support groups, conferences for therapists who work with estranged adult children. I've repainted every room in my house, installed new windows that let in more light, planted perennials that return stronger each spring. The physical manifestations of an inner truth. Renewal requires both destruction and creation. Tonight, I sit on my porch swing as sunset paints the sky in brushstrokes of amber and rose. The solitude wraps around me like a favorite blanket, comfortable rather than confining. Not lonely, just peacefully alone. As I sat there watching the light fade, I realized that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it simply means accepting that the past cannot be changed, but the future is entirely yours to build. Would you have tried one more time with family who abandoned you in your darkest hour? Or would you have done as I did, close that door to open better ones? Sunday dinner at my parents' Victorian home in Springfield follows the same predictable rhythm every week. The familiar scent of pot roast and rosemary potatoes, mother's insistence on using the good china despite the occasion's informality, father's methodical carving of the meat. Even the drive over is routine: 15 minutes across town, past the courthouse with its copper dome gleaming in the afternoon sun. But today, something feels different. The front door stands partially open, and instead of mother's usual immediate greeting, laughter filters down from upstairs. I slip inside, my footsteps muffled by the antique Persian runner that lines the foyer. Hello? My voice bounces off the walls, unanswered. The laughter grows louder as I climb the stairs, following the sound to mother's bedroom. I pause at the threshold, momentarily invisible to the room's occupants. The heavy oak door frames a scene straight from my childhood nightmares. My sister Phoebe stands before Mother's ornate vanity mirror, her cascade of chestnut curls so similar to grandmother's in the black and white wedding portrait on the wall arranged elegantly around her shoulders. But it's what sits atop her head that freezes me mid-breath, the pearl-studded Juliet cap, its delicate beadwork catching light from the bedroom window. Mother hovers behind her, adjusting the cap with reverent fingers. "You were born to wear this," she whispers, voice thick with approval. "Just look at how it frames your face." The antique pearls shimmer like dewdrops against Phoebe's dark hair. My stomach knots as 20 years of cherished dreams disintegrate before my eyes. A small, involuntary gasp escapes my lips, and Mother's eyes dart to the doorway, finding me in the reflection. Her hands freeze on the cap. "Oh, Emerson, we were just trying on some things for when Phoebe's day comes." Her voice carries that artificial brightness she reserves for uncomfortable situations. My mouth goes dry. "But I'm getting married in 4 months," I manage to stammer, hand instinctively moving to the engagement ring on my left hand. Phoebe turns, the cap still perfectly positioned. She laughs, the sound light and dismissive. "You never mentioned wanting it." She touches one of the pearls with manicured fingertips. "Not once. I didn't think I needed to." The words emerge softer than intended. Mother's reflection shows a flicker of discomfort before she smooths her expression. "This is a family tradition, dear. The cap goes to." Go. The daughter who truly appreciates its history. I complete mechanically. The familiar phrase lands like a stone in my chest. The room shifts around me, and suddenly I'm 10 years old again, kneeling beside grandmother's cedar chest in the attic, the smell of mothballs and old wood filling my nostrils. The lid creaks as grandmother lifts it, revealing treasures wrapped in yellowed tissue paper. "What's this?" I ask as she lifts out something delicate and shimmering. "This," grandmother says with reverence, "is the Juliet cap I wore when I married your grandfather." She places it gently on my head, her eyes crinkling with delight. "Someday when you're a bride, you'll wear it too." Later, she shows me photographs grandmother in 1952, radiant beside grandfather on the church steps, the pearl-studded cap holding her veil in place. I trace the image with my fingertip, memorizing every detail. For years afterward, I filled journal pages with drawings of my future wedding day, the pearl cap always the centerpiece of my veil. After grandmother's funeral, I watch Mother carefully preserve the cap in tissue paper, tucking it away for safekeeping. The first signs appear when I'm 14. Phoebe has the classic family features. Mother remarks at dinner, examining my sister's face with approval. The Thompson cheekbones, Mother's eyes. Christmas that year, Phoebe receives grandmother's cameo brooch while I unwrap a generic silver bracelet from the mall. At family gatherings, Phoebe's achievements, her perfect report card, her ballet recital, her winning science project earn effusive praise, while my academic honors and writing awards receive polite nods. Phoebe is the spitting image of my mother, becomes Mother's constant refrain. I tell myself it doesn't matter. The cap is still mine, promised on that dusty afternoon in the attic. The memory dissolves as Phoebe adjusts the cap in the mirror, tilting her head to admire how the pearls catch the light. "May I please wear it for my wedding to Daniel?" I ask quietly, voice steady despite the hammering in my chest. Mother's sharp intake of breath punctuates the silence. "Oh, Emerson, we couldn't risk damaging it," she says, as if explaining something obvious to a child. Phoebe removes the cap with careful hands, placing it on a velvet cushion. "Besides, it complements my features better," she adds with a small shrug. "Everyone says so." The bedroom door swings wider as father enters, his Sunday paper tucked under one arm. "What's all this about?" he asks, surveying the scene with mild interest. "Emmy wants to wear grandmother's cap for her wedding," Mother explains. Father's expression softens into the patient look he reserves for what he considers my impractical notions. "You know family traditions, Emmy," he says gently. "Some things just make sense a certain way." And in that moment, with crystal clarity, I understand. There was never any tradition about which daughter would wear the cap. The tradition was created for one purpose, to ensure I would never have it. The pearl-studded Juliet cap gleams on its cushion, as far beyond my reach as the moon. 30 minutes later, the dining room clock ticks with maddening precision as Mother serves pot roast onto bone china plates. Father unfolds his napkin, with the same methodical motion he's performed every Sunday for 30 years. No one mentions what happened upstairs. "These potatoes are exceptional," Father says, breaking the silence that stretches between us like a wire. You've outdone yourself, Patricia. I push the food around my plate. My appetite vanished. The image of Phoebe wearing grandmother's cap refuses to fade. Emmy, you've barely touched your dinner, Mother notes, her tone deliberately light. Everything all right? Before I can answer, Phoebe launches into a detailed account of her latest work project. I watch Mother's face transform with interest, nodding and asking questions. When was the last time she showed that level of engagement with my career? Your sister's quite the rising star, Father comments, beaming at Phoebe. Then he turns to me with a different expression, indulgent, patronizing. You've never been one for sentimentality, Emmy, always so practical. The label stings because it's so fundamentally wrong. I've kept every birthday card, pressed flowers from significant moments, and maintained journals since childhood. My apartment brims with mementos. Yet in their narrative, I'm the unsentimental daughter because it justifies their favoritism. I'd lend you the cap, Phoebe offers with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes, but traditions matter in this family, don't they, Mother? Mother nods, pleased. Indeed they do. Didn't your grandmother always say the cap was for her first grandchild's wedding? Aunt Vivian asks, reaching for her water glass. She came 15 minutes earlier, unaware of the incident, yet somehow she knew and squeezed my hand under the table. The question drops like a stone into still water. Mother's fork freezes midway to her mouth. More potatoes, anyone? She asks too brightly, rising from her chair. Vivian, help me bring out dessert. As they disappear into the kitchen, Father checks his watch. The Cardinals game starts in 20 minutes. I drive to Aunt Vivian's farmhouse the following afternoon, questions churning in my mind. Her porch swing creaks as we settle with glasses of sweet tea. Your grandmother was very specific about her wishes, Aunt Vivian says, retrieving an old hat box from her hall closet. Patricia knows this perfectly well. She places a bundle of yellowed envelopes in my lap. The handwriting on them, elegant, sloping script, makes my throat tighten. Grandmother's letters. Go ahead, she encourages. I open the first envelope with trembling fingers. My dearest Vivian, it reads. The Juliet cap should grace my first granddaughter's wedding day. Little Emmy has her heart set on it, and I've promised it to her. Make sure Patricia remembers this when the time comes. The words blur as tears fill my eyes. I pull out a faded photograph tucked inside me at age 10, sitting on grandmother's lap, the pearl-studded cap tilted on my small head. Both of us beaming. There are more, Aunt Vivian says softly. Letter after letter mentions me by name, describes my fascination with the cap, reiterates grandmother's promise. The final letter, dated just months before her death, is explicit. The Juliet cap belongs to Emmy. She treasures its history more than anyone. Your grandmother intended it for you. Aunt Vivian confirms, her hand warm on mine. Patricia deliberately reinterpreted her wishes. She's always favored Phoebe, though heaven knows why. Armed with this evidence, I visit my parents the next evening. Mother listens stiffly as I spread the letters on their kitchen table. That's not what she meant, Mother says finally, barely glancing at them. It's exactly what she meant. She names me specifically in every letter. Father peers at one letter, then shrugs. Can't you just buy something similar? David's bridal must have options. The suggestion slices through me. To him, one white headpiece is interchangeable with another, devoid of history or meaning. Phoebe enters the kitchen, assesses the situation, and immediately tears up. You're trying to ruin my future wedding, she accuses, voice quavering perfectly. This is so like you, Emmy, always wanting what's mine. What's mine? The audacity steals my breath. Some traditions simply suit certain people better, Mother says, gathering the letters into a neat stack and handing them back to me. I'm sorry you feel slighted, but my decision stands. I leave without another word, unshed tears burning behind my eyes. Daniel holds me that night at our apartment as I finally break down, curled against him on our sofa. I don't understand, I whisper between sobs. Why has it always been like this? His arms tighten around me. Because they're wrong, Em, not because you're unworthy. My phone buzzes with a text from Leanne. Your mother called asking about rehearsal dinner preferences. I told her to talk to you directly. What happened? I call and explain everything. They've always done this to you. She fumes. Remember your high school graduation? Your mother spent the entire ceremony taking photos of Phoebe in the audience. The next day, Daniel's mother calls. I heard about the situation with your grandmother's cap, she says gently. I have my mother's vintage hair clips. They'd complement your dress beautifully, if you'd like to borrow them. Her kindness brings fresh tears. Even my wedding planner, Melissa, proves an unexpected ally during our next meeting 3 days later. When I explain the situation, she nods with understanding. Your wedding should reflect your story, not theirs, she says, showing me a portfolio of alternative headpiece options. And honestly, we can design something even more meaningful. For the first time since Sunday, something inside me unclenches. I'm not asking their opinion on the venue, I announce, surprising myself with my firmness. Melissa smiles. Good for you. The next milestone comes during my dress fitting Tuesday next week. In the bridal salon's private room, surrounded by mirrors and champagne flutes, the consultant adjusts my veil. Any family heirlooms you'll be wearing? She asks. The question catches me off guard. I once dreamed of wearing my grandmother's pearl-studded Juliet cap. I admit, voice cracking slightly. In the changing room afterward, I break down again. It was all I ever wanted for my wedding day, I confess to Leanne, who holds tissues and patience in equal measure. The consultant knocks gently before entering. I couldn't help overhearing, she says, her eyes kind. What does your perfect day actually look like? The question stops my tears. I've been so focused on what's been taken that I haven't considered what I truly want, one where I recognize myself. I answer slowly, realizing the truth of it only as the words emerge. She nods, understanding something fundamental. Then that's exactly what we'll create. Looking at my reflection, white gown shimmering under salon lights, I see past the missing cap to the woman beneath. For the first time, I wonder if breaking free from their expectations might be a different kind of inheritance. One grandmother would have valued even more than pearls. The next day, while preparing for the client meeting, my phone buzzes for the 5th time in 20 minutes. I stare at the screen, watching Phoebe's name illuminate again. The Instagram notification beneath it reads, Phoebe Kelly tagged you in a post. My thumb hovers over the alert before I finally tap it, a familiar sense of dread washing over me. The photograph fills my screen. Phoebe sits at mother's vanity, hair professionally styled, makeup flawless. Grandmother's pearl-studded Juliet cap perches atop her head like a crown. The caption beneath reads, The pearl-studded Juliet cap, our family heirloom, will be mine someday. Family tradition. Heirloom jewelry. Wedding traditions. The comments scroll beneath like a chorus of approval. You were born to wear it, writes Aunt Meredith. Just like your grandmother, adds cousin Rebecca. Absolutely stunning on you, Mother has commented, adding a string of heart emojis. I set the phone face down on the kitchen counter, my hands trembling. The morning sunlight streaming through the window suddenly feels too bright, intrusive. Daniel appears at my side, his coffee mug pausing halfway to his lips when he sees my expression. What's wrong? He asks, setting his mug down to peer over my shoulder. I wordlessly turn the phone toward him. His jaw tightens as he reads, eyes narrowing. A muscle works in his cheek. This is deliberately cruel, he says finally, voice low with controlled anger. They know you're getting married in 4 months. They know you wanted that cap. Maybe they forgot, I offer weakly, but the words taste false even as I say them. Daniel's hand covers mine. Emmy, don't do that. Don't make excuses for them. The buzzing continues as messages pour in from relatives. Aunt Vivian's text appears. Just saw Phoebe's post. Are you all right, dear? At least someone remembers. 3 days later, I sit at the Springfield Country Club, surrounded by family celebrating my grandparents' 60th anniversary. The linen tablecloth feels crisp beneath my fingers as I twist my napkin into a tight spiral. Across the table, Mother beams as she accepts compliments about Phoebe, who's wearing a navy dress that Mother probably selected. Phoebe will make such a beautiful traditional bride. Great Aunt Martha announces to the table, patting Phoebe's hand. She has the Kelly bearing. Always has. Uncle James nods sagely. The perfect debutante bride of the future. Your mother showed me the photographs with the cap. She'll wear Mother's cap just beautifully. Mother agrees, her voice carrying just enough to ensure I hear it. I pull my phone from my purse, opening the wedding countdown app. The screen blinks back at me. 112 days. I've been planning for years, dreaming since childhood, and now find myself without the one item I'd always envisioned as part of my day. Daniel squeezes my knee under the table, a silent reminder that I'm not alone. The next morning dawns clear and cool. The antique shops here have always been my refuge, places where history is valued but not hoarded, where stories are meant to be continued, not locked away. The bell above Fairchild's Antiques jingles as I enter. Mrs. Fairchild, at least 80 with hands gnarled by arthritis, smiles at me from behind the counter. Emerson, haven't seen you in weeks. How's the wedding planning coming along? It's progressing, I manage, not quite meeting her eyes. She studies me with the keen perception of someone who's witnessed decades of human emotion. Come with me, she says suddenly, motioning toward the back room. Got something new in yesterday. I follow her past cabinets of depression glass and vintage jewelry, to a small display of wedding items. A collection of handkerchiefs with tatted edges, satin pillows for ring bearers, vintage cake toppers with frosted faces. Something borrowed, something blue. Mrs. Fairchild murmurs, carefully lifting a delicate handkerchief edged in pale blue thread. But my attention has fixed on something else. In the corner sits a simple basket filled with bundles of dried baby's breath, the tiny white flowers still perfect despite their dried state. Mrs. Fairchild follows my gaze. Ah, those. Simple beauty never goes out of style, does it? My assistant dried those herself. I lift a bundle, the stems thin and delicate between my fingers. The tiny blossoms catch the light like miniature stars. I wore wildflowers in my hair for my wedding, Mrs. Fairchild says, her voice softening with memory. My mother had this elaborate tiara that had been in our family for generations. Everyone expected me to wear it. My head snaps up. But you didn't? No. Her smile deepens the wrinkles around her eyes. I looked at myself in that tiara and saw my mother, my grandmother, everyone but me. So I walked into a field the morning of my wedding and gathered wildflowers instead. What did your mother say? I ask, barely breathing. Mrs. Fairchild laughs, a sound like wind chimes. Oh, she was furious. But, Harry, my husband, he said, I'd never looked more beautiful. She pauses, patting my hand. 63 years we had together before he passed. Not once did he mention wishing I'd worn that tiara. I purchased 3 bundles of baby's breath, cradling them like precious cargo as I leave the shop. For the first time in weeks, a sense of possibility unfurls within me, authenticity over tradition. The phrase echoes in my mind, a revelation. That evening, Daniel calls with news. I met with that florist today, the one in Auburn, he says. She completely understands what we're going for. No fussy arrangements, nothing overdone. You did that without telling me? I ask, surprised. I wanted it to be a surprise. Your mother kept sending those links to that florist she knows. Marjorie? I supply automatically. Mother's bridge partner who specializes in elaborate cascading bouquets that cost more than my monthly rent. Yeah, her. Anyway, this florist I found, Tessa, she's amazing. Says she can incorporate whatever elements matter to you. He pauses. No pressure from anyone. Later that night, Leanne texts me links to independent dressmakers. Just options, her message reads. Places your mom doesn't have on speed dial. My future mother-in-law calls the next morning. Daniel mentioned there might be some tension about venues. She begins carefully. Robert and I would love to offer our garden. Spring flowers will be at their peak in 4 months. My wedding planner emails a list of photographers, caterers, and musicians, all small businesses, none connected to my family's social circle. Vendors who will respect your vision, she writes, people who listen to you. I stand in my living room, surrounded by these messages, these offers, these people, who are creating a protective circle around my wedding day, around me. The realization washes over me like warm water. I have people who see me. That evening, I sit cross-legged on my living room floor, the bundles of baby's breath spread before me. With careful fingers, I begin weaving the stems together, forming a delicate crown. The dried flowers are surprisingly sturdy yet light. I imagine wearing this instead of the pearl-studded cap, a crown of my own making. My phone rings. Mother's name appears on the screen. I take a deep breath before answering. Emerson, I've been thinking about the rehearsal dinner seating. The Hawthorns should be at table 1, of course, and we'll need to separate the Millers from the Prestons after that unfortunate incident at the charity gala. Daniel and I have already decided on the seating arrangements. I interrupt, my voice steady. The silence that follows stretches like taffy. But we always handle these arrangements, Mother finally says, confusion evident in her tone. Not this time, I reply, gentle but firm. I twist another stem into my growing crown. We're keeping things simple, just close friends and family at one long table. But that's not how we. It's how we're doing it, I say, surprised by the quiet authority in my voice. I should go. Daniel and I are meeting with the photographer tonight. After we hang up, I hold the completed baby's breath crown up to the light. It's delicate yet surprisingly strong, just like the small seed of resolve growing within me. I walk to the mirror in my hallway and place it atop my head. The dried white flowers frame my face like a constellation of tiny stars. For the first time in months, I recognize myself. The next day, I spread a mood board across my dining table. Photos of garden weddings, simple table settings with wildflowers in mason jars, bridesmaids in mismatched dresses the color of spring leaves. No crystal candelabras, no formal 5-course meals, no family crest embossed on every surface. Daniel leans over my shoulder, his hand squeezing mine as he surveys the images. This is us, not them, he says softly. Later that afternoon, I approve the final design for our wedding invitations. The simple cardstock features pressed wildflowers instead of the Kelly family crest. There's no mention of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Kelly request the honor of your presence. Instead, it simply reads, Emerson and Daniel invite you to celebrate their marriage. I run my fingertip over the raised texture of the dried flowers pressed into the paper. This wedding will be ours. This life will be ours. And I will be recognizable to myself within it. Mother arrives at my apartment unannounced Tuesday morning next week, her knuckles rapping against my door with familiar authority. I barely have time to set down my coffee mug before she sweeps inside, Chanel No. 5 perfume announcing her presence. I've been thinking about your wedding dress, she announces, settling onto my sofa, uninvited. Her cream-colored purse rests primly on her lap. I spoke with Madame Rousseau about altering my dress for you. The same dress she's been pushing since Daniel proposed. A confection of lace and beading that belongs in her wedding album, not mine. I already have a dress, Mother. I busy myself collecting stray magazines from the coffee table, avoiding her eyes. But tradition, Emerson. She emphasizes my full name, the way she always does when displeased. A Kelly bride in something borrowed. Something borrowed. Like the cap she promised Phoebe. Her phone chimes. She glances at the screen, then quickly tucks it away, but not before I catch the photographer's name. Did you just contact James Preston? My voice sounds steadier than I feel. A flicker of discomfort crosses her face before she composes herself. Well, that boy you hired, with the artistic notions. Trevor. His name is Trevor. The room suddenly feels too small, the walls pressing inward. Did you cancel my photographer? James has done all our family events since your graduation, she says, as if this explains everything. He knows our good angles. I walk to the kitchen, needing distance. I tell my mother to leave and she does it, with shock on her face. However, between the cutting board and knife block sits today's mail, including an envelope in Father's distinctive handwriting. Inside, a check for $5,000, with a note reading, "For a proper wedding, love, Dad." My phone buzzes 10 minutes later. Phoebe's tearful voice fills the speaker when I answer. Emmy, please. She hiccups dramatically. Mom's beside herself. You're tearing the family apart with this rebellion. The word hangs between us. Rebellion. As if choosing my own photographer, my own dress, my own vision is an act of war. I'm getting married, Phoebe, I say quietly. Not starting a revolution. Not. After she hangs up, I sit at my kitchen table and write a note to Father. Thank you for your generosity. We've got this covered. I tuck his check inside, seal the envelope. No anger, no accusations, just boundaries, finally erected after 31 years. The wedding planning website asks for my password. I change it to something Mother would never guess, Daniel and Emerson only 2025, and send Trevor an email confirming our agreement with a postscript. Please direct all communication through me personally. No family interference. In the evening quiet, Daniel and I relocate our rehearsal dinner to Riverview Gardens, a place only our closest friends know about. I make reservations under his last name. Are you okay? Daniel asks, his hand warm against my back as we finalize the details. Better than okay, I answer. surprised to find it's true. I close my journal where I've written, "My wedding will be authentic, not performative." The next morning brings an unexpected call. Margaret Holloway's voice, wavering with age but clear with purpose, fills my ear. Grandmother's best friend, calling from her retirement home in Oak Ridge. "I saw Phoebe's post about that cap," she says without preamble. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you, standing your ground." "You knew about the cap?" My throat tightens. "Elizabeth always said it was for you. She told me how you sat for hours drawing it in your little notebooks." Margaret's voice softens. "Some people rewrite history to suit themselves, Emerson. Doesn't make it true." After that, wedding RSVPs begin arriving directly to my email rather than through Mother, Aunt Joanne, Uncle William, cousins I haven't spoken to in months, each message carrying subtle solidarity. Father appears at my office Thursday lunch hour, awkwardly holding a paper bag containing a sandwich from my favorite deli. "Your mother means well," he begins, his standard opening when peacemaking. The fluorescent lights highlight the gray in his hair. "I know she does, Dad." I accept the sandwich but not the excuse. That evening, my phone chimes with a text from cousin Stella. "Can I be seated away from Aunt Patricia? Like you, I need some space." I need some space. I stare at the message, understanding blooming like a time-lapse flower. I'm not alone in finding the family dynamics suffocating. Others have felt it too, have been waiting for someone to break the pattern. The final dress fitting feels like victory 2 weeks later. No mother hovering with suggestions. No Phoebe commenting on how certain styles might be more flattering. Just me and a seamstress who smiles approvingly at my reflection. The gown falls in simple lines, the ivory satin catching light without sequins or beads. My shoulders look stronger than I remember, my posture straighter. "You look like yourself." "My wedding planner, Tessa," says quietly. On the vintage vanity sits my creation, a delicate crown of baby's breath with tiny vintage pearl pins nestled among the white blooms. Not an heirloom passed down, but something new, created with my own hands. I place it carefully on my head, the weight familiar from practice. In the mirror, I see a woman I recognize. Someone who makes her own choices. "This feels right," I whisper, and for the first time in months, I smile without reservation. In weeks to come, I carefully organize and confirm everything once more regarding my wedding. This time I chose myself and my future husband. The evening before the wedding arrives, with Mother appearing at my apartment door one final time. She holds a familiar box, its velvet covering worn at the corners. "I've brought the Juliet cap," she says, voice strained with effort. "Just in case." I look at the box, at the treasure I once coveted, then at my mother's expectant face. "Thank you," I say gently. "But I've made my choice. Bye." Confusion clouds her eyes. "But it's what we've always done." I think of the baby's breath crown waiting for tomorrow, of the decisions made without family approval, of the boundaries finally established. "It's what you've always wanted." I correct her softly. Something shifts in her expression, the first fragile recognition that maybe, just maybe, there's a difference. Morning sunlight filters through the oak trees, casting dappled patterns across the garden behind my childhood home. I sit on a wrought iron bench, still in my robe, watching butterflies dance between the hydrangeas. For the first wedding morning in Kelly family history, there's no frantic rush, no precisely timed appointments, no mother herding bridesmaids with military precision. Water? Leanne appears beside me, offering a crystal tumbler with cucumber slices floating on top. "Thanks." The cool glass feels reassuring against my palm. Is it strange that I'm not nervous? Leanne settles beside me, her bridesmaid dress a soft sage green that complements the garden. Not strange. Perfect. Across the lawn, my bridesmaids arrange wildflowers in mason jars wrapped with simple twine. No formal bouquets, no color-coordinated ribbon cascades, just blooms gathered fresh this morning. The absence of Mother's preferred florist feels like oxygen. "Ready for your crown?" Leanne holds up the delicate circle of baby's breath I'd crafted yesterday. Tiny white blossoms intertwined with ivy sprigs and secured with nearly invisible wire. Nothing like the elaborate pearl-studded Juliet cap I'd dreamed about for 20 years. I nod, closing my eyes as she places it gently on my head. The weight is almost non-existent, yet I feel its presence like an anchor to this moment, this choice, this freedom. "Take a look." Leanne guides me to the vintage standing mirror we've positioned beneath the maple tree. The woman reflected back surprises me. My simple silk dress falls in clean lines, unadorned except for vintage buttons down the back. My hair frames my face in loose waves rather than mother's preferred structured updo. The baby's breath crown sits like morning frost, delicate and ephemeral. I recognize myself, I whisper. A slight movement in the mirror's edge catches my attention. Mother stands in the doorway, watching. Her expression shifts between confusion and something else I can't quite name. She's wearing the navy dress she bought for cousin Rachel's wedding, her pearls perfectly aligned at her throat. Her hands grip her elbows as if holding herself together. She opens her mouth to speak, then seems to think better of it, retreating inside without a word. You okay? Leanne asks, adjusting a strand of my hair. Surprisingly, yes. And I mean it. The garden transforms throughout the morning. White market lights strung between trees, simple wooden chairs arranged in a semicircle, a handcrafted arch covered with greenery, no grand floral arrangements, no monogrammed aisle runner, no string quartet. Just the garden where I'd spent childhood summers reading under trees, while Phoebe practiced ballet poses on the lawn for Mother's approving gaze. Daniel waits beneath the arch, his grandfather's pocket watch chain just visible against his vest. When our eyes meet across the garden, his smile breaks like sunrise. No rehearsal dinner disaster, last-minute vendor crisis, or family drama can dim the certainty in his eyes. I spot Phoebe's arrival from my hiding place near the kitchen door. She's overdressed in a formal cocktail dress and heels that sink slightly into the grass with each step. Her discomfort is visible as she navigates the informal setting, glancing around as if expecting to find familiar trappings of Kelly family events. Ready? Father appears beside me, adjusting his tie nervously. We stand in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken conversations between us. He looks at me properly for what feels like the first time in years. Emmy, he begins, then stops himself. His eyes drift to the baby's breath crown, then back to my face. You look like your grandmother right now. My breath catches. Is this another comparison where I'll fall short? Not because of any heirloom, he continues softly, because of your grace. The words land like pebbles in still water, sending ripples through years of collected disappointments. Did you know she wanted me to have the cap? I can't help asking. I suspected. He offers his arm. But I've never been brave enough to challenge your mother on things that matter. We begin walking toward the waiting guests, my hand resting lightly on his sleeve. And now? Now I see what courage looks like. His voice roughens. I'm sorry it took so long. The path to Daniel feels both endless and instantaneous. When I reach him, his hands close around mine like coming home. Our vows contain no mention of family traditions or proper roles. Instead, we promise partnership, growth, and the creation of our own path forward. When Daniel speaks of your quiet strength these past months, tears spring to my eyes. He's seen the battle behind my peaceful exterior, the determination beneath my smile. Applause surrounds us as we share our first kiss as husband and wife. I catch glimpses of unexpected expressions, Great Aunt Martha nodding with approval, Uncle James wiping a suspicious moisture from his eye, Father standing straighter than he has in years. At the reception, conversations flow around me like water. Most authentic wedding I've attended in decades, says Mrs. Whitaker, Mother's garden club rival. Your grandmother had that same spirit, adds Uncle Thomas, pressing my hand. She never did care much for pomp. The photographer captures moments I never planned, Daniel spinning me under apple trees, Leanne laughing with my cousins, guests dancing barefoot on the grass. Not a single staged family portrait with forced smiles and perfect posture. From across the garden, I notice Mother overhearing guests, praising the refreshing simplicity and genuine warmth of our celebration. Her face tells a complex story I can't fully read. As evening descends and market lights twinkle overhead, Phoebe approaches, clutching a familiar velvet box. You don't need the cap, she says quietly. You never did. I wait, sensing there's more. I was jealous, she continues, tears brightening her eyes. Not of the cap, but of how you always knew yourself. I only knew who they wanted me to be. She extends the box. Grandmother would want you to have this. I know that now. The moment stretches between us, the cap finally within my grasp, the dream suddenly within reach. I place my hand on the box but don't take it. Keep it, I say gently. I've found my own way. As Phoebe's fingers tighten around the velvet box, I notice for the first time how young she looks beneath her perfect makeup, how uncertain beneath her practiced confidence. The crown of baby's breath sits light upon my head as I turn back toward my husband and our future, blooming where I've chosen to plant myself. 6 months later, the Christmas tree in our living room stands adorned not with expensive ornaments but with memories. Wedding photos hang between twinkling lights, my baby's breath crown clearly visible in each frame. Daniel adjusts a handmade ornament, a miniature wreath of dried flowers, before stepping back to admire our handiwork. "First Christmas as the Thompsons," he says, wrapping his arm around my waist. "No dress codes, no assigned seating, no mandatory gift exchange." I lean against him, savoring the peaceful quiet of our home. The dining table awaits our guests, with mismatched vintage plates I collected from thrift stores. No family china in sight. The gifts beneath our tree are mostly experiences, concert tickets, cooking classes, weekend getaways rather than objects that gather dust. When the doorbell rings, I don't rush to smooth my hair or check my lipstick. The woman who opens the door is someone my family might not recognize, confident, relaxed, unburdened by the need for approval. The evening unfolds without the familiar tension. No one criticizes the cranberry sauce or questions my choice of centerpiece. When Father asks about our honeymoon hiking trip in Colorado, he actually listens to my answer instead of waiting for his turn to speak. The phone rings 3 days later. Mother's name appears on the caller ID. "Would you show me how to make that crown?" Her voice carries a tentative note I've never heard before. "The one you wore at your wedding." It was distinctive. From Mother, this is practically a declaration of surrender. At the family New Year's gathering, I find myself in the garden with my 16-year-old cousin Sarah, teaching her to weave wildflowers into a simple circlet. Her fingers fumble with the stems, but her face glows with concentration. "Aunt Patricia always says I should wear my hair up to look more elegant," she confesses, "but I feel more like me when it's loose." I hand her another daisy, "Then wear it loose." Phoebe arrives wearing jeans instead of her usual cocktail dress. When Uncle James remarks on her casual appearance, she shrugs. I wanted to be comfortable. Our eyes meet across the patio. Something has shifted. Months later, for our first anniversary, Daniel and I return to the garden where we exchanged vows. Under the same oak tree, he presents me with a wrapped package. "I found this at your grandmother's friend Martha's house," he explains as I unwrap a framed photograph of grandmother in her garden, hands dirty from planting, face alight with joy. No pearl cap, no formal pose. I turn the frame over and discover a note in familiar handwriting. "To my Emerson, who always saw beauty in simplicity." Tears blur my vision as understanding washes over me. The real heirloom was never the pearl-studded cap. It was her spirit, authentic, unbound by others' expectations. That evening, I place fresh baby's breath beside my preserved wedding crown, now displayed in a shadow box on our wall. In the mirror behind it, I catch a glimpse of my smile so like grandmother's in the photograph. My journal sits open on the desk, today's entry still drying. Heirlooms aren't always objects. When the phone rings with Mother's caller ID, I answer with peaceful certainty. The woman I've become doesn't need anyone's approval to recognize her own worth. Sometimes, an heirloom is not about the object itself, but about how you hold on to dignity and authenticity in the face of family expectations. What tradition would you reclaim or redefine for yourself?